Now we're going to transition back to the SEC. We heard from Arkansas. Let's hear from Big Blue. And when we speak Arkansas and we speak Kentucky in the same sentence these days, I don't know why anything comes to mind there. I don't know what that could possibly be, Kevin McGuffey.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody might have to fill us in over the events of the last week. It's kind of funny because, as you said, you were just talking with somebody from Arkansas a few minutes ago, and now we're here with Kentucky. So since you and I last talked, I'm sure you've all heard and seen Coach Calipari is now at Arkansas, and Kentucky hired Mark Pope, was a team captain on the 1996 national championship team, and they're going to introduce him at a press conference tomorrow at 4:30 there at Rupp Arena, and we'll see what happens. I wasn't sure about the whole process, but he wants to be here, and it's going to be interesting. And mentioned Calipari, he's been posting pictures. He's at a Wooden Award dinner tonight, and he's kind of flexing, for lack of a better word. He had to put picture with Caitlin Clark. He had a picture of I think the cast of some of the cast of Ted Lasso. So anyway, but we don't want to get off on a whole other basketball tangent. We want to talk. I know you want to talk a little spring football, such as the Kentucky spring game was this afternoon. So yeah.
John Calipari has had to discard all of his blue wardrobe now, and he has to buy that Arkansas wine.
Right. Well, yeah, but the funny thing is, he looked like he was still wearing like a blue shirt at the dinner tonight, and then there's video of him calling the Hogs, or trying to call the Hogs, or trying to teach him how to do the Woo Pig Suey, and it's kind of entertaining to watch. But anyway, so
and before we move on to football really quick, because we did mention Calipari's moved to Arkansas with our buddy Ty Hudson just a few minutes ago, because coaches just don't leave Kentucky. If I'm not mistaken, we would have to go probably throughout the entire history of the program that you either get fired or you go to the NBA a la Rick Pitino. Otherwise, nobody leaves Kentucky.
Right. Yeah. In the modern history, basically, of basketball, I think Adolph Rupp came to Kentucky in 1931, 1932, was here for 40 some years, retired. Joe B. Hall took over after him, was here like 14 years. He retired. Eddie Sutton came from Arkansas after that. Lasted 4 years, got in all sorts of NCAA trouble, got skill on probation, and he got fired. Then Rick Pitino came in, was here like 9 years, left, as you said, left for the NBA. Tubby Smith was here for 13 years. Now, Tubby did leave Kentucky and went to Minnesota.
So he actually decided to leave, didn't he?
Yeah. Okay. And there was a lot that went into that, I think. I don't think he felt, I don't know, the program wasn't, he went obviously won a national championship his first year. But of course, the caveat was, he won with Pitino's players. I don't buy that. Tubby, he might have been the players, but Tubby was coaching them. And but yes, he did. He left. He went to Minnesota because he just didn't feel, I don't know, like the situation just wasn't right here anymore. So then they hired Billy Gillespie. He lasted 2 years. He got fired. And then Calipari came. But yeah, so basically two out of that's 8 coaches, 7 or 8 coaches. Yeah, 2 of them actually left and went somewhere else, and the rest were fired or retired.
Now, if this all wouldn't have happened over the last week, I think that the most talked about person in the state would be Brock Vandegrift.
Yes. Yeah, and that's what a segue. I know that's why you're the voice of college football. Basically Kentucky's scrimmage. I don't know. The best way to, maybe, if anybody's familiar with the TV show Whose Line Is It Anyway, you can kind of make the note to the scrimmage. Basically, the points didn't matter, and they just kind of made it up as they went along almost. So they didn't keep score. They didn't keep a clock. You and I talked about this earlier in the week, that when we all discovered what thudding was, and basically they popped pads at the line of scrimmage on the snap, and then you kind of either kind of wrap somebody up, did not tackle them, or you just, some of them honestly just plays it in on two-hand touch. So, but of course, for the crowd that was there, the big thing was Brock Vandegrift, and to see how he was going to do. Um, First chance really to get to see him, and for everything I've seen and heard, he looked pretty good. As it turned out, this game was, this was supposed to be on ESPN Plus or SEC Network Plus, and then magically, sometime late this week, they said, "Oh, it's not going to be on anywhere." So you either had to be in person watching the game, or followed it on, found ways of following it like online, like through Twitter feeds, or just talking to people, and going from there. But back to your point, Brock Vandegrift looked very good. Had a couple of touchdown passes, led 3 scoring drives. They basically, and this was also the first chance to see what Bush Hamden offense was going to look like, and very up tempo, as we talked about before, fast paced, lots of misdirection. I think there's a lot of things for folks to get excited about. Like I said, Vandegrift threw for 2 touchdowns, led to another score that went to field goal. Basically, they kind of alternated quarterbacks. You'd have Vandegrift for a while, then you'd have Bo Allen, then you'd have Cutter Boley, who's a highly touted incoming freshman from here, a local kid from Lexington Christian. So, and he also did some very good things running the ball. They ran a few quarterback draws, kind of reminded maybe a little bit of Will Levis with his running ability. So that's something I think going forward that going to keep defenses honest, shall we say, because he might drop back to pass and just take off. You're going to have to watch him on the ground as well as through the air. They worked a lot on. He did mostly short, medium passes. They did throw a few long balls. One I think was like a 40-yard completion to Dane Key. That was probably the longest pass he had of the day. But the short, medium passing game looked really, really good. And you still need a little, still getting there maybe with that deep ball. But again, it's only April, and we've got 4 or 5 months until the season starts. So, but first impressions, I think everyone, the BBM was pretty happy with what they saw out of Brock Vandegrift.
Did you get a chance to see much from Chip Trainium?
Didn't really get to see much with a lot with the running game. They had one, I know, Jason Patterson, who's an incoming freshman, a freshman they're really high on. He scored a touchdown. Didn't really see a whole lot, hear a whole lot about Trainium today. So, but I didn't hear that he was out or not playing, but just didn't, you didn't see his name mentioned anywhere. So take that for what it's worth. I can do some more research, but that's the best I can tell you about that right now. So
Kevin McGuffey's here from Last Word on College Football. Kentucky with its spring game today at Kroger Field in Lexington, and they didn't keep score, so I don't know that it was necessarily a game, but the folks out there got to see Kentucky throw the ball around and play some football. And right. It's the last session anyone will see, of course, until August camp. And the wide receiver core, I don't know, you would have your estimation on whether they really lived up to it last year, but certainly going into the season, it looked to be the best wide receiver core that Kentucky's put on the field maybe ever. Who's back from that group? And in terms of anyone else having to step up, how does the wide receiver core look?
Well, obviously the wide receiver core starts with the super, I guess we call them juniors now, Barrion Brown and Dane Key. Both of those guys have been, especially Key, has been turning a lot of heads in practice this fall. Like he's really ready to take that next step. Another guy that we talked about before was Jamori Macklin. He from North Texas transfer. He did not play. Honestly, hasn't played, I don't think, hardly any, if at all, during spring ball. But they think that's he's someone that's going to take that third receiver spot. that was Tavion Robinson's last year. But a guy who's been really, really impressive, and somebody we talked about back on signing day is a wide receiver, Hardly Gilmore from out of Florida. He's they think he could be another uh, like second coming a couple years now of a Barron Brown or Dane Key. He might be that next guy, next year. I mean, who knows? Key and Brown could have huge seasons as juniors and decide to go to the NFL. Obviously, us here in Lexington hope that doesn't happen, but he's a guy. Like I said, now Macklin is. I still think he's going to be the guy who ends up is that third, that kind of slot receiver position that Robinson played. And then after that, you have Fred Farrier, Raymond Cottrell. They brought in a ton of guys from the transfer portal because honestly, other than the Brown and Key, they don't have. There's not a whole lot of experience coming back. Most of the guys who are still here, they had several guys transfer, and so they hit the transfer portal really, really hard as far as the wide receiver position goes. So they're obviously with the new quarterback and the new system, everybody is still learning. But those are two names, like I said, Macklin, Gilmore, Fred Farrier, and Cottrell. I could see all of those guys getting some good reps come this fall. So,
Kevin, as well as anybody that on the defensive side of the ball, since about 2017, 2018, that there was a span of about 3 or 4 years where Kentucky produced as much, not just NFL talent, but impressive NFL talent as just about anyone in the country.
Right.
It was remarkable. Are there those kind of players on the 24 defense?
Yes. His name is Deion Walker. No, and talk about just that. You probably saw this week, Josh Allen just signed a huge extension, I think $150 million contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's, that he's that guy that the UK coaches always talk about, the recruit and develop. That's always been a motto with Stoops and Brad White, Vince Marrow, and those guys. So if you go back and look, Josh Allen was a 2-star player coming out of high school, and Kentucky, saw something in him that they were impressed with, and you see where he is today. But we just I've been going through doing position by position previews and just talked about just did the defensive line. I think that just posted a couple of days ago. But yeah, Deion Walker is going to be the guy, big man in the middle, potential All SEC candidate. I think potential dark horse All American candidate. Maybe he's really, he's trying to slim down a little bit this year. But he's another guy who did not play today and hasn't done much, if anything, in spring ball this year. Honestly, Kentucky was probably 4 or 5 of their top defensive linemen. None of them played today or have been not had a lot of reps, if any, at during spring ball. But yeah, like I said, Deion Walker is the guy who could probably be that next guy that you're hearing about in the NFL next year. He's a junior. Would not surprise me to see if he has a monster season this year to go ahead and declare for that 2025 draft, where I think he could be a potential first round pick. But of course, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. But that's the guy you're talking about. Those impact players. He's the one. He's the one that you should definitely watch out for on the sidelines or on the game this fall.
Chat, we've got a question for you. I'm going to leave this question for the chat to answer. Who is the current dean of coaches in the SEC? Who is the coaching dean in the SEC right now?
That would
Everybody, please. Do you know who is the dean of coaches now with Nick Saban hanging him up?
Am I supposed to answer, or are we supposed to wait?
I don't know if we can wait. We're not going to wait too long. Let's see if anybody's listening or cares to answer. I guess not. Who's the dean of coaches in the SEC, everyone? Dependent Fanatic says Kirby Smart.
Nope. I think he's second now, but
yes.
Yeah. but
And
it's
let's understand, the dean means the longest
right,
tenured. It doesn't mean the
right,
most
yeah,
successful.
exactly. Not necessarily the most. I mean, if you want to look at it from success, obviously Kirby Smart would be the guy now that Saban is gone. But no, he's not. He's not the elder statesman.
The Rod Favre, ding, 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 ding,
Yep,
ding, ding.
you are
Yes,
correct,
in his
sir.
12th season.
Yep. Yep. Mark Stoops in his 12th season, and now with Nick Saban retiring, he is the elder statesman, the dean, however you want to use that phrase, of the SEC um, SEC coaches. So, and like I said, we talked about this earlier this week. You remember the whole Calipari Stoops blow up from 2 years ago, and hey, looky here, Stoops is like, I'm still here, and I know somebody on, I still call it Twitter, but X, whatever, picture of like, Stoops, drinking his bourbon or whatever, and goes, I won, kind of thing. So, but anyway, but Mark Stoops is the elder statesman now, 12 years, and like I said, still going strong. And like I said, I think seven. Just throwing it out there, I think 7 wins, 7 to 8 wins. The schedule is obviously a lot harder this year. Kentucky, let's face it, if Kentucky starts 5-0 this year, they're going to be ranked like number 2 or number 1 in the country. Because you think about they go to Ole Miss and they play Georgia within those first 5 weeks, and they also play South Carolina, which honestly I think is probably the most important game of the year this year, because Kentucky has lost to Beamer and the Gamecocks 2 in a row, and Kentucky needs that win and needs to get back on. Needs to get back. We won like 8 out of the last 9. So, yep. So there you go. Southern Miss, South Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, and then at Ole Miss. So, and I said I'm really. I will be one of the first ones to admit I'm very high on Ole Miss this year. They really came on obviously at the end of last year, and they just crushed it in the transfer portal. So, and now that one's down in Oxford. So Kentucky just played there a couple years ago, and really had a chance to win that game, but it's kind of that 2022 season in a nutshell. Turnovers and penalties pretty much killed the Cats' chances of winning those games. And I would like to point out, some people may not know, if you look at maybe an older schedule, Kentucky was originally. Sorry, I just bashed my hand on my table.
You're right there, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting too excited. I'm like Dick Vitale, baby. Anyway, John Madden was making football. Kentucky was originally supposed to play at Akron to start the season. Is one of those weird, contracts that they signed many, many years ago. And then if basically Ohio State was supposed to play Southern Miss, and Kentucky was supposed to play Akron. And so they kind of switched things up. And now I think Akron is going to Ohio State for the first game of the year. And now Kentucky is hosting Southern Miss. So it's kind of, and honestly, all of us, when we first heard that they were going to go, like, that game is never going to happen. Like Kentucky, they're going to buy their way out of the contract, do whatever, pay. I think it was like maybe $750,000 or something they paid to the school to get out of having to go up there. Because, the whole thing was, that's, Akron. I know you're very familiar with Akron in that area, but I think the whole idea was, Stoops, Vince Marrow, some of those guys being from Youngstown, kind of trying to go up there, I think, and play a game, close to where they're all from. I think that's where that whole idea came from. But then we were like, no, this game is never going to happen. And sure enough, we were correct. So, like I said, now they host Southern Miss. So, like I said, best case scenario, if you want to have a good season, they have to start, they got to start 3-2. They got to beat Southern Miss, they got to beat South Carolina, and of course, beat Ohio. So if they start 2-3, then the rest of the season gets a whole lot tougher. I did see one person the way too early predictions had Kentucky going 5-7. I think that's a little low, but we'll see. But yeah, so there you go. Like I said, if Kentucky starts 5-0 this year, like they have the last some of the last few years, like I said, they're probably going to be ranked number 1 in the country. So, because that means they would have beat Georgia and beat Ole Miss at Ole Miss. So,
well, I will say, Kevin, unless Big Blue Nation was prepared to make the, I'm guessing, 5 to 6 hour drive to beautiful Akron, Ohio, and spend their weekend in Akron, Ohio, Kentucky, I'm sure played in front of more people today at their spring game than would have showed up in Akron. Again,
I don't know. I have not seen an official attendance figure, but there didn't look like a whole lot of people there at Kroger Field. But like I said, I haven't seen, I haven't seen an official attendance. And of course, when they do those, I'm sure they count, all the, the ushers, the folks in the concession stands, all of that stuff.
Media.
But yeah,
everyone.
The media, exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of crowds Akron draws these days, but yeah. So, like I said, that I think that was the whole idea behind that game. But now it's like, no, we need, especially with Oklahoma and Texas and all that coming in and changing of the schedules. It's like, yeah, we needed that game. And South Carolina, excuse me, Southern Miss is a game obviously that they should win. Those two teams, they played a series home and home about 7 or 8 years ago, and then Kentucky won both of those, but they went down right to the last, deep in the fourth quarter kind of thing. So, best case scenario, we get Vandegrift throwing for like 5 touchdowns, and Tranium runs for like 150, and then Key and Brown get 100 yards receiving each, and great way to start the season. So we'll see. But like I said, we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's 5. Yes, let's do that. We'll see what happens. But like I said, but going back to our original, like I said, it wasn't a spring game. It was more like a controlled practice. But for the Big Blue Nation, it was a great chance to see Vandegrift, see what the new look offense is going to, what the new look offense is going to look like. And, and then we'll see. Now they've got all summer to get everybody, healthy. I don't know, like some of these things, like some of the people didn't play. If it was, a game situation, some of these people, some of these guys probably would have been out there, but you know how it is. You get, the end of the season, the 2023 season, you have, aches and pains and little nicks and, things you need to get taken care of. So I don't know. I mean, spring practice really, as big a, not I'll say a big a deal, but, what's more important, making sure everybody's healthy in August or, in April. So, but who's the most important team in football today? Is he an Ohio State fan?
No, he is a Kentucky fan.
Oh, sweet. My man.
Yes, our guide to real MVP. He is
I didn't get to see any of the Ohio State. So I know it was broadcast on Fox this afternoon, and I didn't get to see any of the Ohio State game, see how they look today. But like I said, with all this Kentucky basketball, as people who have followed me and our conversation, my main job, I work at a TV station and here in Lexington, and the last 2 weeks have just been absolutely nuts. I was on vacation. I was off for a few days, but I got home like Sunday night, and I was getting people that I know that like live in Arkansas that I've done like things for in the past, and they're like texting me and calling me like, dude, what's going on with Calipari? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been on like college visits with my son. That's what we were doing. And then I get on and I'm like, wow, this is really happening. So, but yeah, like I said, the last couple of weeks, honestly, since the end of the basketball season and another disappointing, awful, no good, very bad loss in the NCAA tournament, it's just been nuts. But hopefully after tomorrow, this is all great. And then we can go back to spending the summer talking about football and the transfer portal opening, the summer portal, and we'll see where we, see where we are, come August. And then, as I always like to throw out with you when we get hopefully around Memorial Day weekend. We'll throw out just for fun. We'll throw out some early bowl projections. I've seen a couple places that have already done them. I was like, you can't. I mean, it's just it's just guessing because you don't know. Somebody that's on the team now may not be on the team. Like a star player may not be on that team. Come June, but that's the fun of college basketball and base basketball. Excuse me, folks. College football, and that's why it's called projections, right?
Kevin does lay down some of the best projections of bowl games once he decides to get that started, and I guess that's going to be around Memorial Day.
Yeah, that's. I guess I've pigeonholed myself into that now. So, yeah, somewhere around Memorial Day weekend, 1st of June, we'll have those. We'll have those out, and we'll see where we are. Like I said, I think just since we're talking about Kentucky, I think a Liberty Bowl. Maybe even a Las Vegas Bowl. Hey, why not? Let's go to Las Vegas for the for the holidays because I guess my understanding has been a lot of teams with the way things are set up haven't been that excited about going to the Las Vegas Bowl because it's like 3 days after signing day. Because it's like the game's usually like on that Saturday before Christmas and like that Wednesday before Christmas, obviously your coaching staff is worried about your recruiting day, for the next season. But since the recruiting, I think is moving up 2 weeks, right? Or something like that. So, that won't be as big of an issue this year. And of course, now that we have the expanded playoff, we're just, let's just have college football into like February, March. let's just keep it going. But yeah, I think a Liberty Bowl, just off the top of my head, like 7-5 in a Liberty Bowl, is probably a good place to start with Kentucky. And we can go, hopefully up, and see where, see how the season goes.
Kevin, since I brought up Mark Stoops being the dean of SEC coaches, I'm going to bring this screen up here with Mark Stoops' tenure at Kentucky. All right. Mm-hmm. So we need to understand what Kentucky football was prior to Mark Stoops. Look it up. It's atrocious. So it took him some time, but he got it going around 2017, 2018. So he is 35-55 in the SEC.
Right.
So I'm going to give the head coach a goal here. I would like to see him leave Kentucky over 500 in the SEC.
Right. But you think about it, you look at those first, he's 20 games under 500, but those first 3 years he was 4-20. So
yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, and as you said, when Joker Phillips was the coach before, Rich Brooks was the coach, retired in 2009 after the loss to Clemson in the Music City Bowl, and then the next year, except back at that time, Vanderbilt was actually really good. Because that's when when the James Franklin years, that was Vanderbilt was really, really good. But like I said, when Joker took over the first year, they made it to a bowl game. Then the next 2 years, obviously, if you went back farther, 2012 was I think another 2-10 season, and you had the famous game where they lost to Vanderbilt. It was 40-0 in a miserable. In a miserable, cold November game in Lexington, where there may have been 2,000 fans, in the stands that day. And at that point, it was obvious that Joker was done. It was just a matter of time. And he said, they went through a lot of different names. Mitch Barnhart, the athletic director, and selected Stoops. He was at Florida State, a defensive guy, and obviously that's a stalwart, a hallmark of Kentucky's teams is the defense and the strong running game. So, like I said, so they had two. Looking at your thing, 2021 and 2018. Won 5. Had a winning record in the SEC. I think that was the first time since the 1976-77 teams under Fran Kersey where they did so, they had that like 3-year stretch where they did really, really good. Unfortunately, it came to a crashing halt because probation. They got lots of recruiting violations, lots of all of that, and Kersey stuck around for a few more years, and Jerry Claiborne came in, went 0-10-1 his first season, and then took Kentucky to a bowl game. I think it was called the Hall of Fame Bowl. It was something played in Birmingham. I think it was the Hall of Fame Bowl because they played in that game 2 years in a row. But yeah, like I said, from where I've talked about this a lot. From where this program was when Stoops took over to where it is now is just amazing, just night and day. And like I said, he's now the all-time. He's been here 12 years, but he's the all-time winningest coach at Kentucky, past Bear Bryant's mark, I think 2 years ago. I think the Bear won 61 or 62 games here. So, excuse me. But like I said, from where they are, it would be awesome if he could get to if he got to 500 overall in the SEC. That means that we're probably playing in some SEC championship games, which of course is the goal. That's that's what you're shooting for every year. You want to win. Of course, there's not divisions now, so that's going to be another thing. It's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out this year. Because Kentucky, I think it's Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and I want to say Ole Miss were like the three teams that never won a division when the SEC was. I think it was three teams. I think it was Kentucky. I think it was Kentucky, Vandy, and Ole Miss. And the Ole Miss one kind of surprised me, but then again, they played in the West, and you had all those strong Alabama teams, the LSU teams, and then of course you had those years, where Auburn was really, really tough. But somebody can look it up real quick. I mean, I probably could.
I think I got it in my head here,
Kevin. I'm pretty sure it's Kentucky, Vandy, and Ole Miss were the three that never won a division title.
South Carolina made it once in 2010.
Right.
And Mississippi State made it once. I remember I was in the stadium in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the only two that I can think of that only made it once.
Yeah.
Everybody else, more than once. And Kentucky, Vandy, and Ole Miss.
Yeah, I was just going to look. Now that we're talking about it, I was going to look it up, but
Missouri made it their second and third years.
Right, because Missouri came into the league strong those first couple years, and of course they dropped off a little bit, but then now, I think they're a team that could do some really good things.
Texas A&M.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's Texas A&M. You're right.
They never made it.
So let's see. It says Alabama 15, Florida 13, Georgia 11, LSU 7, Auburn 6, Tennessee 5, Arkansas 3, Missouri 2, Mississippi State 1, and South Carolina 1. So that would be 4 teams then that never made it, right?
Yes.
Because it was Kentucky, Vandy, A&M, and Ole Miss. Yeah, because like I said, and then you had those really, really good. Again, kind of the same thing. You had those really, really good A&M teams, but then again, you're running into Alabama and LSU and Auburn. When they were really good. So, but now, it is what it is. Now you just have to be the best or the second best of 16 teams now,
or the fourth best.
Yeah, where that's true. So and we'll see what happens. But like I said, it would be awesome if Kentucky. It seems about every 3 or 4 years that Kentucky, comes up and has a massively great season, and 10-3 in 2018, 10-3 in 2021. So 1, 2, 3. So hey, let's go for 10-3, 10-2 or 9-3 this year. But if they go 9-3 this year, they're certainly going to earn it because, like I said, the schedule. And I know you always like to pick on Kentucky schedules, and we all do. But they get those. Try to get those 3 what they think are guaranteed wins, and then the 4th game against Louisville. They try to. We've had Kentucky's had really good success against Louisville the last few years. So, you're starting out of the box with 4 wins, so you just got to win. these days, you got to win two more games, and you're in a bowl. So, but like I said, it's to my thought, it's great that Kentucky football is at the situation now where just making a bowl game is not enough. It used to be, okay, woohoo, we got 6 wins, we get to go to random game, but now it's like, okay, we want to go to the Citrus Bowl. Obviously, you want to go to the SEC championship. You want to go to, you want to get in the playoffs, and but you just winning like 7 games and going to, the Belt Bowl. Oh, it's not the Belt Bowl anymore, but like your goal now is not just getting to a game. Your goal is that 8, 9, 10 wins, and you want a New Year's Day game. You want a big game. So I think that's awesome that Kentucky has gone from, the Big Blue Nation has gone from, yay, we made a bowl, to we made that bowl. We made it here. We want here. So I think
Okay,
that's.
so along those lines, Kevin, because based on everything that you just talked about, and we've had many really good discussions about Mark Stoops and what he's done for Kentucky football, and then the real MVP, he's a frequent caller here at the Voice of College
Mhm.
Football, and he has certain thoughts about Kentucky's chances in the new world of the 12 and maybe 14 team playoff. So do you think, not this season, not this Kentucky, but the Kentucky program has a chance to go to a college football playoff?
I mean, I think there's always a chance. Is it a big chance? Probably not. But you never know. There's always a team every year that no one talks about, no one sees coming, and they just get on a roll, and you see what happens. Especially with the expanded playoff, we wanted to use another tagline. They always like to say, "Why not Kentucky?" So why not? But like I said, it's going to be more difficult, obviously, with bringing in Oklahoma and Texas. Of course, Kentucky plays Texas this year. And of course, now Kentucky's going to play Texas next year, too, because basically they just said for 2025, oh, what the heck? We'll just play everybody again and we'll just flip it. So if Kentucky goes to Texas this year, Texas will come to Kentucky, next year. And one thing, I've talked about this, I think it's kind of funny, but kind of sad in a way, that Texas is going to come to Lexington to play before Texas A&M has, and Texas A&M has been in the SEC since 2012. And because Kentucky's only played A&M once. I think it was 2017 or 2018. So
Overtime game.
yeah, it was a great game. Honestly, as a game Kentucky probably should have won. The thing with Stoops, and that's like this with all the teams. There's always one game every year. It's like, we should have won that game. Why did we not? Like 2 years ago it was Ole Miss. Last year it was probably the South Carolina game. But I'm sure every school has that, unless you're somebody that's going 12-0 every year or something. But I just think it's funny that Texas is coming. They're going to play Texas twice before they've ever played Texas A&M twice. But because I think A&M was supposed to come to, I want to say A&M was supposed to come to Kentucky next year, under the original 12 team, either this year or next year, under the original 12 team format. Where you played, you had your Kentucky's natural opponent every year was Mississippi State, and you played every other team once. So I think A&M was finally going to come here next year, but it's either this year or next year. But anyway, so there you go. But yeah, I don't see. You have to dream. You got to dream. You got to dream big. I'm just going to throw all the cliches out there. So why not? I mean, you could see, especially in the NIL age and the transfer portal. If Kentucky gets, especially with Hamden, his heard nothing but great things about the offenses that he wants to run. It's an up tempo. That was another thing I wanted to mention about the game today. Kentucky ran a play an average of every 20 seconds, which is that's maybe not quite Tennessee, but considering Kentucky was like the worst team or near the bottom at rate, pace of play, number of plays per game. Um, that was probably that, seeing Vandergrift do well and how fast they were trying to play. Those are probably the biggest takeaways. I think that the Big Blue Nation should be happy about. And I agree. I think, like I said, 7-5. Like I said, starting off 7-5, that's my pick for this year. And then we'll see what happens. But like I said, I think they start 3-2. And then they got some tough ones at the end of the season coming up this year. So like I said, I think 7-5 is a good is a good. I think people should be happy. I know I'm getting ready to contradict what I just said, but with this schedule, I think 7-5 is good for 2024. So.
Well, Kevin, even though we've left this portion of the conversation already in the dust, the last thing I will say to circle back to SEC scheduling, these are the examples that I've given to outline how ridiculous the SEC scheduling format was from 1992 through 2023. And of course, this is a bygone conversation, but still,
Right.
You talked about Kentucky now seeing Texas twice before they will see Texas A&M twice, or seeing Texas at home before they will see Texas A&M, who's been in the SEC since 2012. Think about this one. This is what I used to always bring to light. I cannot think of two schools in the SEC that have less to do with one another than Texas A&M and South Carolina. And they were the two teams that were paired to play every season in the SEC. Therefore, Texas A&M has played South Carolina 12 times. During that stretch, they played Georgia once.
Right.
So if you extrapolated that out, let's say this would have never changed. There would have been no realignment, no expansion. In the course of 70 years, Texas A&M would have played South Carolina 70 times, and they would have played Georgia 10 times.
Right. And see, I even think it would make more sense to have like Texas A&M and Missouri if you're going to do, because if for no other reason they came into the league together at the same time. But yeah, I've never understood the whole Texas A&M. I'm with you. The Texas A&M South Carolina thing just doesn't make doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. So I've never understood that one at all. But like I said,
and the other thing that I never understood, Kevin, I guess it's just them wanting to achieve symmetry. But Alabama, Tennessee, natural rivals. They play in opposite divisions. They wanted to maintain that series, obviously. Auburn, Georgia, the oldest rivalry in the South. Yes. To a lesser extent, LSU, Florida, that certainly has a rivalry faction to it. The rest of them, why can't you build a schedule and just guarantee those 3 games and let the other ones just go, because they're not rivals?
Right. And there had been a lot of talk that even Kentucky and of course this year will be the first time Kentucky and Mississippi State haven't played since I think like 1990 or something, because they played every year. And at one point there was a lot of talk that Kentucky and Tennessee might not play this year because of the new scheduling, which I obviously Tennessee fans have. Let's be honest, Kentucky's not done very well in that rivalry, and they finally turned the corner against Florida, but Tennessee is still that mountain they have yet to climb, I guess, in the SEC, along with Georgia, because they haven't beaten Georgia since 2009. But Kentucky and Tennessee, they're neighbors, border states. They should play, every year. That's just my opinion. And I was glad that it worked out to where they're, at least for this year, and obviously next year they're gonna keep playing. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens after that.
Folks, you can catch Kevin's work. It's at Last Word on College Football. Those folks have been so good to us here at the Voice of College Football, of course. Kevin, Tony, and others. LastWordOnCollegeFootball.com. Kevin, we appreciate you spending a little time here on a Saturday night with us.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. And like I said, I'll have a recap up of the spring game. sometime soon, and then I'll finish. Then we'll finish my spring previews. I've still got basically a couple things on defense to do, and then we'll look at the NFL draft coming up in a couple weeks. There's a couple of guys, Trevin Wallace and Andrew Phillips on the defensive side of the ball that are getting a lot of love from some of the early the draft projections. So as you talked about, we talked about earlier, those could be a couple guys, guys might be those next guys, from Kentucky making that nice NFL money. So